Chosen one, pause for a second. What if I told you that something shifted in the spirit realm today? Something with your name on it. Not next month, not someday, but now. Heaven just opened a door for you, and it wasn't random. You didn't force it. You didn't beg for it. You didn't even see it forming. Yet while you were enduring, praying, and quietly staying faithful, God was aligning something behind the scenes. Have you felt that strange tension lately? The sense that something is about to break open? If this message is confirming what your spirit already knows, type 777 in the comments as a sign of agreement. Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly what this open door means and why it could change everything. Chosen ones, heaven just opened a door for you. There are moments in the life of God's chosen ones when heaven does not announce itself with thunder. It opens a door quietly, and your body often becomes the first place where that opening is felt. Have you ever sensed a shift within yourself before anything changed around you? I have seen this pattern again and again, not only in scripture, but in life. Before opportunity appears, before visible confirmation arrives, something begins to rearrange itself inside you. You may feel warmth in your chest, not anxiety or adrenaline, but a steady peace, as if something within is whispering, "It's time." When the risen Christ walked with the 2 disciples after his resurrection, they later said their hearts burned within them as he spoke. That burning was recognition. It was alignment. Sometimes your spirit knows before your circumstances do. At times your breathing changes too. You may be surrounded by uncertainty, yet instead of tightening, your breath slows. Your shoulders soften. Your body relaxes when logic says it should panic. I remember seasons in my own life when the numbers did not make sense and the timing seemed risky. Yet every time I prayed about a certain direction, my body responded with calm. It felt as if heaven had already approved what my mind was still trying to analyze. Sometimes your body agrees with God before your thoughts catch up. There can also be a trembling, not fear, not weakness, but a quiet current moving through you. Daniel described losing his strength in the presence of divine revelation, only to be strengthened again to stand. That trembling was not destruction, it was transformation. And then there is the strange lightness that comes over you, as if a burden you have carried for years is beginning to lift. Jesus said his yoke is easy and his burden is light. When heaven opens a door, striving begins to lose its grip. Alongside these physical signs comes a mental shift. A restlessness begins to stir, not dissatisfaction, but the awareness that where you are is no longer where you will remain. Abraham was called to leave without a map in his hand. Something moved in him before his feet moved on the ground. Yet at the same time, there is often deep stillness. It seems contradictory, but it is true. You sense that change is coming, yet internally you are calm. Elijah encountered God not in wind, earthquake, or fire, but in a still small voice. When heaven opens a door, noise may increase around you, but clarity increases within you. Your awareness sharpens, you begin to discern motives more quickly, conversations feel layered. Scripture says the spiritual person discerns all things. That discernment is not suspicion, it is preparation. Why would your perception become sharper unless you were being positioned for something that requires wisdom? I once spoke with a businessman who said that before his greatest breakthrough, he experienced an unusual calm, as if the outcome had already been settled in the unseen long before the contract was signed. That is often how heaven works. The Spirit recognizes movement before the world does. So consider this carefully. What if the warmth in your chest is confirmation? What if the slower breath is reassurance? What if the restlessness is invitation? What if the stillness is God stabilizing you before acceleration? The door from heaven rarely shocks the aligned heart. More often it confirms what the Spirit has already sensed. But divine timing does not obey human clocks. We measure life by age, deadlines, comparison, and visible progress. Heaven measures readiness. Many times in my own walk I mistook preparation for delay. I thought stillness meant stagnation, when in truth, heaven was protecting me from stepping into spaces my character was not yet ready to sustain. What felt like postponement was often protection. Joseph received visions of leadership when he was young, but the palace did not open until prison had shaped him. Betrayal, obscurity, and waiting were not detours. They were reinforcement. David too was anointed long before he sat on a throne. The oil marked him privately, but the crown came later. Between promise and manifestation came caves, battles, and misunderstanding. That space was not empty. It was formation. This is why environments that once impressed you may no longer attract you in the same way. That is not loss, it is maturation. Your spirit has outgrown certain spaces because something larger is being prepared. I once spoke with a woman who had prayed for leadership for years. When it finally came, she said, "If this had happened 5 years ago, I would have ruined it." That is spiritual maturity. Heaven had not denied her. Heaven had developed her. There is a rhythm in this: preparation, protection, restoration, positioning. And positioning always begins within. Moses stood before the burning bush while Egypt remained unchanged and Israel remained enslaved, yet something irreversible shifted inside him. He stopped seeing himself as a fugitive shepherd and began to recognize himself as a commissioned deliverer. The door did not open because circumstances softened. It opened because identity solidified. That is why divinely timed access carries a strange effortlessness. Responsibility may increase, but striving decreases. When heaven opens a door, you do not have to manipulate your way through it. Divine doors respond to alignment, not anxiety. The world rushes, but heaven refines. And when the door finally opens, it often feels familiar, as if your spirit had already stepped through it before your body did. Still, heaven does not just open new circumstances. It reshapes you so you can sustain what you are about to receive. Before clarity, there is preparation. Before elevation, there is endurance. What you once called being stuck may actually have been strengthening. Jesus lived in obscurity for nearly 30 years before stepping into visible ministry. That hidden time was not wasted. It was fortification. In that same season, old wounds begin to lose their authority. Rejection no longer defines you the way it once did. Betrayal loosens its grip. Certain memories no longer carry the same sting. That is because preparation includes cleansing. And often, just when you think the process is complete, one more test appears, one final chance to react the old way. But those tests are not meant to destroy you, they reveal your growth. Then clarity emerges. Confusion begins to dissolve. You stop overanalyzing everything. Direction becomes simpler. And with clarity comes authority. The old voices grow quieter. The inner critic weakens. The need for constant validation fades. Transformation strips away what no longer belongs to you. You begin to recognize what is aligned and what is not, without needing endless confirmation from others. That is the deeper truth. While you thought you were waiting for a door, the door was also waiting for you to become someone who could walk through it without shrinking. You were not being held back. You were being built up. And once that inner work matures, another shift becomes necessary. Posture. When heaven opens a door, the most important movement does not first happen with your feet, but with your posture. That posture is acceptance, not resignation, but the quiet recognition that something has shifted and you are no longer resisting it. Many chosen ones misunderstand this moment. They think readiness feels like urgency. Often readiness feels like calm. There is a difference between chasing and receiving. Chasing carries tension. Receiving carries peace. Mary, when told she would carry a destiny greater than her understanding, did not panic. She surrendered. Let it be unto me. In that sentence there was no fear, only agreement. Surrender is not weakness, it is trust. And trust changes how you move. Something softens when you say internally, I receive, instead of, I must make this happen. You stop bracing for disappointment. You stop rehearsing outcomes in your mind. You stop trying to control what was never yours to control. Trust does not shout. It settles. When you finally accept that the preparation season has done its work, something powerful happens. You stop asking why it took so long, and you begin to understand why it had to. You stop resenting delay and start recognizing design. Then you step forward differently, not rushed, not anxious, not loud, but grounded. Heaven did not open this door so you could run through it in fear. It opened so you could walk through it in peace. And when you do, something irreversible begins. It is not just a change of circumstance, it is a change of state. The peace you carry no longer feels fragile. The confidence you walk in no longer depends on perfect conditions. The clarity you hold does not collapse because someone questions you. This door was not cosmetic, it was structural. When Jacob wrestled through the night and encountered God, he did not leave the same. His name changed, his identity changed, even his walk changed. Some doors do not simply lead you into something new, they rename you. And with that inner shift comes protection. Psalm 91 speaks of dwelling under the shadow of the Almighty. When you are aligned with what heaven has opened, there is a covering around you that was not there before. And within that covering comes a deeper peace, not a fragile peace that depends on silence, but a rooted peace that remains even when responsibility increases. When harmony settles within you, the path ahead begins to brighten step by step. You may not see the whole blueprint, but you can see enough for the next obedient step, and that is maturity. So pause and ask yourself honestly, can you feel that shift, that steadiness, that clarity, that absence of inner resistance? That is not imagination, that is not temporary emotion, that is arrival. Heaven opens doors with intention. It opens them when strength has matured, discernment has sharpened, healing has settled, and trust has taken root. And you, God's chosen one, may be far more prepared than you think.